Welcome to Down the Right Field Line. So after two key divisional series against the Phillies and the Braves, the Marlins welcome interleague play at Marlins Park against the Rays and Red Sox. How did the Marlins fare? And are Ozzie and Bell at odds? All that and more coming up next. Welcome to this edition of Down the Right Field Line. Last time we saw you guys, the Marlins played their NL East rivals both in Philadelphia and then came home to play the Braves. And after taking 2 of 3 in Philly, were swept by the Braves. So now the Marlins welcome in interleague play with the Rays and Red Sox. In Game 1 of this series, you had Ricky Nolasco versus Jeremy Hellickson, last year's AL Rookie of the Year. So you kind of figured it would be a pitcher's duel. Both pitchers, at least Nolasco, up and down, but he's still been consistent. In this particular start, however, Hellickson walked 7 Marlin batters, and yet it didn't seem to have the outcome that you would think, as the Marlins were able to score 1 run on a Greg Dobbs sac fly. And this is after the Marlins had the bases loaded with less than 2 outs, definitely, and it's a huge disappointment. And the Rays just, got to Ricky here and there with whether it be a B.J. Upton 2-out RBI hit or another Will Rhymes 2-out hit or a Matt Joyce home run. So these guys put up 5 runs on the board, and the Marlins were no match for the Rays. Marlins batters went cold as they went 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position and left 13 batters. So you know that this game, they just didn't have it, and I think that goes back to the Braves series where they just looked totally lost at the plate. So Game 2 of the series, you had Carlos Zambrano versus Matt Moore. Matt Moore is, I guess, projected to be the next AL Rookie of the Year after his performance in the playoffs for the Rays last year. And you have Zambrano, our most consistent starter so far. He had a great start in Philly his last time out, and things didn't go the Marlins' way at all, as Zambrano allowed 7 runs in 2 1/3 innings. That is inexcusable. He actually left the game after 2 1/3 with a stiff back. Well, I was at the game, and it didn't seem like anything was going wrong. Things just seemed like he didn't have his stuff, as Ben Zobrist homered twice for the Rays, and it was just a total disaster. The Rays ended up scoring 14 runs, and we lost 14-3. The only bright spot was a Justin Ruggiano 3-run shot, which I thought was great for the Marlins, great for Justin. This guy we acquired him from the Houston minor league system, and he's just been lights out for us. So moving on to Game 3 of the series, we've already lost 2, so here's a chance to salvage one. You had Anibal Sanchez versus James Shields, and before the game, the Marlins recalled Gabby Sanchez and designated Donnie Murphy for assignment. Sanchez allows 4 runs, and Matt Joyce homers in one of those 4 runs, and Elliott Johnson, who knew, hits a 2-run shot in that game. So already off the bat, it's tough enough that the Marlins are having trouble scoring runs. So now the starters are coming in thinking they have to throw perfect games and stuff like that, and it's really difficult to pitch under that pressure, under that strain. So down 4-0, the Marlins have a chance to maybe get back in the game, and we go to the 6th inning where it was a huge play in my opinion. Marlins had a shot in the bottom of the 6th with 1 out and Ruggiano on third base. Omar Infante hits a ground ball to third base. Sean Rodriguez is playing third base in this particular situation, but the ground ball wasn't an easy one to get. It was kind of like to his left, so it was a tough play to make, and I believe Ruggiano scores easily. The only problem is Ruggiano hesitated. He stopped, and then Rodriguez threw him out at home. threw out Ruggiano. So that was a huge play. I think that was a momentum shifter. And even though the Rays already had the 4-0 lead, and you would think, well, isn't the momentum on their side? But I think for that split second, I thought the momentum was on our side, and just things didn't work out. The Marlins hit back-to-back doubles in the 7th inning, one by Lomo and the other one by Gabby. It was great to see Gabby come in the clutch after being called up with an RBI double, and still, the Marlins were not able to continue. So now in the bottom of the 8th, James Shields is still on the mound, and the Marlins get back-to-back singles by Stanton and Lomo. So Lomo, I've already mentioned his name a couple of times, and he's swinging a good bat lately. And so you have back-to-back base hits, and, you know, I believe it's 2 outs eventually, and Gabby Sanchez is at the plate. And he gets called out on strikes on a pitch where, boy, it's borderline. Very borderline, and he wasn't happy with the call. Needless to say, Fernando Rodney, the closer for the Rays, he got the save, and he did his little bow and arrow thing that drives me nuts. But, Rob, this has been, wow, free-falling, if you want to call it, homestand. I mean, what can you tell us about this series and just what the Marlins need to do to improve?
Well, I think in this series, I mean, it all comes down to execution. There was poor execution offensively, poor execution on the mound, poor execution from the bullpen, base running. I mean, all around it just, you did not see us put things together. And this is a very good Rays team. That's why they've been in the playoffs so many times in the last 5 years. And if you're going to beat a team like the Rays, you have to have all your cards on the table. And the Marlins, they couldn't get things done offensively. When you have runners in scoring position, you can't bring them in. You can't win against a very good Rays team if you're not scoring runs in key situations. The Rays have a very good bullpen, which means you need to get to their stars. You know, Reyes has been struggling lately. He hasn't been able to get those clutch hits. You mentioned Lomo. Lomo's been able to get a few hits here and there that have been clutch, but there's not enough runners on. So it's really frustrating to see that. Now, one thing I did like with Gabby coming back, you got a little bit better defense in the infield. You get put Lomo back to the outfield where he's played most of the time the last couple of years. Losing 6 in a row to start a homestand is definitely not something you want to do. And then go into a series against the Red Sox. Hey, this is baseball. Baseball is 162 games, and every team every year that wins the World Series, you look back at their record and you'll see 6, 7, 10 game losing streaks. Got to stick with the team, and hopefully we bounce back against the Red Sox.
Yeah, I would hope that they would bounce back, but in game 1, you had JJ versus our old friend Josh Beckett. This game was one to watch. If there was one game to watch in Major League Baseball that day, I think it'd be that one. You had 2 fireballers. You had 2 guys that just throw country hard fastballs, and going off in the first inning, you mentioned Jose Reyes struggling a bit. He gets on with a leadoff triple. Let's keep in mind that Adrian Gonzalez is playing right field in this game to give Big Papi the start. He's playing at first. So Adrian Gonzalez is not familiar to playing right field. And right off the bat, boom, a triple for Reyes because the ball got past Adrian Gonzalez. Moving on, Solano drives in Reyes with a sac fly. Lomo eventually drives in Stanton with an RBI double. And then Gabby comes up with an RBI hit. So, again, these 2 guys I've mentioned, Lomo and Gabby, it's nice to see them come up in the clutch. So the Marlins off to a 3-0 lead. And then in the bottom of the seconds, the Marlins add another run on a Solano base hit. So we're starting to see Solano coming up clutch, which is great to see. And the Marlins have a 4-0 lead. And JJ just cruised through this game, pitching 7 innings, allowing only 4 hits, 1 earned run, a walk, and 7 strikeouts for the win. That's just vintage JJ. You finally get to see that. And Beckett, had his troubles in the first couple of innings, but he was also lights out after those 2 innings. So it was a well-pitched game. Marlins come out on top. Bell with the save. And the losing streak's over. The Marlins snapped their 6-game losing streak. So moving on to Game 2, you had Burley versus Buchholz. Burley, being in the American League for most of his career until now, has faced the Red Sox before. So there is that history there. Off the bat, the Marlins got it swinging again. An RBI triple by Jose Reyes. And again, Adrian Gonzalez is playing right field. He was playing way off the line. And Reyes just darted it on the line. And again, a triple. So you have a leadoff triple, nobody out. And you're thinking, oh, great. You have what you need to score runs just like the night before. Marlins strike out 3 times in a row. And that is inexcusable because in a game like that, you have to score runs. Burley hasn't been getting much run support. And Buchholz, he came in with, I believe, a 6-2 record and an ERA of almost 6. And yet, that high record tells me that the run support for Buchholz is really high. So, again, now the pressure is on Burley to try to throw, a shutout. And that's not going to happen. The Marlins and the Red Sox stayed 0-0 until the 7th inning when Kelly Shoppach hits an RBI double and Aviles follows with an RBI single. Red Sox take a 2-0 lead, and you're already thinking, oh, great. And I'm sure Burley's thinking, oh, great, because, again, you can't go in there expecting this guy to throw a shutout. He's not that type of pitcher. We've already had that discussion. He does have the ability. He's had thrown a perfect game before in his career. It's frustrating. It's frustrating as a fan. They just can't seem to click. I believe Stanton struck out 4 times in that game. And then going in the bottom of the 7th, a little bit of life. Lomo with a solo shot. So again, we're starting to see this guy play better, get more consistent at bats. Hopefully it turns into a stupendous June for Lomo. But, as of now, the rest of the lineup isn't getting it done. So we go 2-1 in the bottom of the 8th. You have, with 2 outs, you have back-to-back hits. And again, you can't get it done because Stanton strikes out. He gets called out on strikes. So Stanton's struggling, and Marlins aren't able to get any runs. And Alfredo Aceves comes in and shuts down the door in the 9th inning. So, oh boy, here we go again, right? The Marlins can't score any runs, and we're going to the rubber match. Rubber matchup, Nolasco versus Dubront. Now, I'm thinking, alright, this guy, they had almost identical stats between Nolasco and Dubront. So I thought Marlins, can get it going, get some runs in. This guy has the audacity to go no-hit innings until the 6th when Jose Reyes hits a solo shot. And let me preface by saying that the Red Sox had taken the lead, taking a 4-0 lead, so the Marlins cut the deficit to 4-1. So you're already thinking, alright, some life, no-hitters gone, shutouts gone, let's get this going. And, oh man, the floodgates just opened. After Nolasco left, Galdan came in to pitch, and the Red Sox just went buck wild on the Marlins. And it was frustrating, and a little bit of tidbit here. Guillen brought in Bell to get some work done in the 9th inning, and after retiring, he had a couple runners on base, retired 2 batters, and Guillen pulls him out. There was a little bit of a misunderstanding between the 2 of them. Bell wasn't thrilled to come out. Those runners are his, so he doesn't want to come out of the game. And if you're looking at through Ozzy's point of view, this game's out of hand. Let's get Rosario an inning or a batter to work with. And what's there to lose? And so there was a little bit of back and forth in the dugout, and finally what I liked about it was that Bell came up to Ozzy after they kind of cooled down and had a conversation. They may still not have agreed with it, but at least they faced each other man to man and just talked about it. And I think that, to me, was the great part about it. And Rob, a tough series because, you know, to be honest, they were just one hitter away or one pitch away from winning the games here. They still lose 2 out of 3. What can you tell me about the Marlins' continuing struggles and the Red Sox just coming in and blowing the doors open in Game 3?
You know, this team looks very different than the team of last year in the same time with the June struggles, because although we struggled in this series as well, and the whole homestand as a whole, you still saw a lot of emotion in the game with the Bell situation you just mentioned, Rafi. And there was another situation which I don't know if you guys might have seen it, but when the Marlins lost Game 2 to the Red Sox, you know, the camera was kind of panning over through the dugout, and all the players were there. None of them left. They were all sitting there. I can remember Lomo specifically just looking out and watching the Red Sox shake hands. But you saw them kind of like upset at themselves. Like they felt like they didn't put their best foot forward in that game. And that's something different. And you didn't see that last year. Last year we were losing a lot. And it was kind of like, oh, well, you know, we lost the game. You know, we'll bounce back tomorrow. But in this situation, these are first place teams. If you don't beat first place teams, you don't deserve to be in first place. And they kept losing to the Rays, the Braves, which are a really good team, and the Red Sox. So they know deep down inside that if they don't turn things around, we're not going to the playoffs. And although we really struggled in this series, in the Rays series, in the Braves series, you still see that inner urge to be a lot more than what we showed. And, you know, I have a lot of faith in the guys that, you know, after we get through these struggles, we're going to be good again. Look at April. We struggled like crazy in April, bounced back in May, had the best month in Marlins history. So just because we're struggling a little bit now doesn't mean we're not going to be able to bounce back. Look at Stanton struggling right now. When you have your cleanup hitter or your big power guy struggling, the whole team's going to be in a little bit of a slump. Reyes has turned it around in the Red Sox series, a whole bunch of triples, and you know, stuff like that really motivates you. Bonifacio, when he comes back after the All-Star game, you're going to see the whole team revitalized. So there's a lot of hope for the future. Now it's just getting these pieces going, and then maybe in the trading deadline adding a key acquisition here and there. But, you know, don't lose hope in these guys. Even though they're struggling, they'll be able to bounce back.
So after a 1-8 homestand, the Marlins dropped to 4th place and 7 games out of the Washington Nationals in the National League East. Wow, what a free fall. But, you know, they're going to get a chance to go right back at it with those two same teams, go into St. Pete, and then start a 3-game series at Fenway against the Red Sox. So those are 2 huge series that will, I think, tell whether the Marlins can recover from this dismal 1-8 homestand. Well, that wraps it up for this episode of Down the Right Field Line. Be sure to check us out on Twitter, and also let us know what you think of the Marlins 9-game homestand and how they're doing so far. And be sure to check out Marlins Nation at marlinsnation.com. For all of us here at Down the Right Field Line, we'll leave you with our random video of the week, which we like to call the Meja Fricao. Later.